This is proposed as a general tax, which has a voter requirement of 50% plus one dedicated for specific services. You can only do that with a special tax and a 2/3 voting requirement. So this would be a simple majority. It would be available for any general fund purpose. Guidance on where your priorities are. The public safety budget is now 72% of the entire general fund budget. Now, clearly through the annual budgeting process, you again reestablish your priorities going forward. There may be ordinances and other things you can do that directs the expenditures of that money to further your policy to invest in public safety. But again, the measure itself needs to be available for any general fund purpose, or it would require a 2/3 vote.
First, I think our council president eloquently stated a number of the steps that have been taken by this council and by the mayor, by the CAO and CLA to try to address some of the structural deficit problems that we've had and the deficits that we've faced. And those steps include the elimination of 5,000 positions, bringing us to the smallest workforce since Tom Bradley was mayor. Consolidation of departments, elimination of departments, use of public-private partnerships, significantly increased contributions by our employees to their pensions, to their retiree health care, and further pension reform that we've just approved. So there have been significant steps taken, and as a result of those steps, next year's deficit, which was projected to be just 3 or 4 years ago, was projected to be $1.3 billion, has been reduced now, but not eliminated. And next year we still face a deficit of over $200 million. The year after that, we face a deficit projected to be over $300 million. So, although there are promising signs with the improvement of the economy and improvement in our revenues, it's clearly the case that we have to take additional significant measures to bridge those deficits for the coming years. The truth is, more than two-thirds of our general fund discretionary budget is spent on public safety today. And as you all know, the mayor had proposed 209 civilian layoffs in this year's budget, which we were able to at least temporarily defer. 80% of those positions are in public safety, police and fire civilian positions. The mayor has also proposed 50 layoffs of our deputy city attorneys, another public safety function, which I think we just have to be cognizant of. There is no place left other than public safety to make significant reductions in. And any significant reductions that we make will necessarily affect public safety. And by the way, on that point of the city attorneys, we will be discussing that further during the FSR, but I'm going to propose that those layoff proposals be re-referred to the Budget and Finance Committee when we discuss the FSR. Is that unless we have new revenue sources, there is simply no way that we can make cuts next year, let alone the year after that, that will not significantly affect public safety. A new revenue source, there would inevitably be layoffs of police officers. A moment on the issue of where the money's going, because that's been raised a number of times. I mean, we've discussed public safety because that's what the general fund is spent on. 2/3 of the general fund goes to public safety. But the ballot title and question for the proposed measure is quite clearly not limited to public safety. It says that the purposes of the measure are to offset severe and repeated state cuts and provide funding for 911 emergency response services, maintaining firefighter, paramedic, and police officer staffing levels, continuing community policing, senior services, after-school gang and drug prevention programs, repairing potholes and sidewalks, and other general municipal services. So necessarily, this has to be funding that goes into the general fund to be spent on general fund responsibilities. I do want to just propose, Mr. President, one friendly amendment, technical matter, I guess, but in the ballot title, where it says neighborhood public safety and vital city services funding, I'd like to insert the words "and accountability." And then in the parenthetical that just says sales tax, it should read parentheses generally referred to as sales tax.
Okay.
So if that's acceptable as a friendly amendment. A couple quick points. First of all, I think a lot of people look at the large sales tax that Californians pay now and that people in Los Angeles County pay now. They think that's a ton of money. How come the city isn't doing more with all of that sales tax revenue? So first, I'd like to just make clear, Mr. Santana, how much of the sales tax right now does the city of Los Angeles receive?
About 0.75.
So less than a penny, 3/4 of a penny of the sales tax that you pay comes to the city. The rest goes to Sacramento and elsewhere. Now, I just want to close my comments or follow up with my earlier comments by saying we've already taken a number of very difficult steps to reduce our budget deficit. And our constituents, folks, feel that every day. You all get the same calls that I do about, slower services, about reduction in services in parks, about reduced hours, about delays in getting street repairs and sidewalk repairs, all of those things. And I think it's just untenable to ask our constituents to give up any more services than they already have. Right now, we're teetering on an edge of some of these services that are not being provided, having ruinous effects on the city for a generation or more to come. And we have to start restoring some of those services. At least we have to stop the bleeding and not cut them anymore. And I would say that while I'm concerned, as everybody else is, about a sales tax increase, as modest as this one is, any sales tax increase in a difficult economy, of course we got to be concerned about the impact on jobs and on small businesses. But I'll tell you that reductions in services affect small businesses as well. When this city doesn't function, when you can't drive on the streets, when you can't walk on the sidewalk, when we're laying our employees off and putting them on the welfare rolls, that affects jobs and that affects our economy and that affects our city's friendliness to business as well. So I'd say that this is a modest step forward that will allow us to continue to function as a city and eventually allow us to start to restore some of the services that our constituents deserve. Our vote today just gives our constituents the opportunity to make the decision. Don't we owe them at least that? In light of all that they've been through, all of the service reductions that they've received right now, don't we at least owe it to our constituents to give them the opportunity to weigh in and say yes or no? I'm willing to pay the sales tax or I'm not. That's what the measure is before you today. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 4 noes.
Okay.